Show us the one where we're kissing. Show us the sea while we're cool. Come take a trip in my airship, and we'll visit the man in the moon. Ain't this a nice song? Yes, it is a nice song.
Up ship.
Greetings, loyal airmen, and welcome to the Airship 27 podcast for March, episode number 49. I'm your co-host, Captain Ron Fortier, and as always, joining me is Chief Engineer Rob Davis. How you doing, Rob?
Doing good. Enjoyed a little warmer weather than the last time we spoke. But before we begin, let's pay the piper. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network. You can find every episode of the Airship 27 podcast on comicspodcast.com each month. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Comic Frontline, YouTube, and of course, Zone4podcast.com.
As I've said all along, we're everywhere. There you go. All right, and hey, this month you get the privilege of kicking off with the joke of the month.
I get to do the first joke. Yeah, okay. Well, this is a short one. I was reading the other day about Beethoven, and I heard he had chickens, but he had to get rid of them because all they would say was "bok bok bok."
Oh, that's bad. Oh, ooh. All right. No, hey, here we go. Okay, my stinker is as ever being reserved for the end of our hour here. And boy, I tell you, putting this agenda together, amigo, we've got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, I saw that. Usually it's 2 to 3 pages when I put it down to 11-point type. It was 3 and almost went over to 4 this time. So
yeah. All of which though is rather important for the future of Airship 27, what we do, what we're about, and we hope as ever our loyal airmen will appreciate the information that we do want to share with them. I'll kick off, starting off with the first agenda since you did the commercials and the jokes, and so here we go. Airship 27 partnership. For the past several years, Radio Archives, a leading audio book recorder, has been partnered with Airship 27 Productions. In that time, Radio Archives has produced 125 Airship 27 audiobooks and made them available via Amazon's audible.com. Effective this past Friday, March 1st, 2019, Radio Archives took over complete production of all future Airship 27 titles, and for the very first time will be selling them via their own very popular website. Not only will new pulp fans be able to purchase digital copies of these books, but CD sets as well. This is a first for Airship 27 Productions. This new evolution of having our books available on their site immediately opens up 27 new distribution channels previously out of our reach. The first Airship 27 title to sell on the Radio Archives web store will be the recently released Codename Intrepid by author Robert J. Mendenhall and is read by Paul Curtis. Fans can purchase either the digital download or the CD set beginning on Friday, which was a couple weeks ago as we're talking. Also worth noting, and this is important, all new titles will sell at a discounted 50% off cover price, but only during the first 6 days of the book's posting. We urge all our loyal airmen to take advantage of this truly amazing deal and to also sign up for the Radio Archives newsletter so they do not miss a future title release. Finally, since the press release was sent out, there was a little confusion on what books would be affected. No, none of the previously published books is being redone. and all will remain as they are available from audible.com. Only new releases as of March the 1st will be available via Radio Archives in both digital and CD formats. And there you have it. And
Right.
that is huge,
Right.
Rob. I mean,
Well,
just
it
the
kinda came out of the blue.
distributions alone.
Yeah, it like I was saying, it kind of came out of the blue for me because I didn't know this was coming at all. So it was quite a bit of a surprise when Tom told us this, that he was going to bring it all in the house like that.
Well, I think if you recall, at the end of the year, just prior to New Year's, Tom, and we're referring to Tom Brown, the owner and general manager of Radio Archives, did come to both of us saying he had some ideas for his own Radio Archives, and that they most likely would include us, Airship 27. But he was at that particular point in the formative stages of putting all this together. And it becomes really huge for him, because one of the things that we don't mention in the press release is that up until all this came about at the start of March, Radio Archives was also selling books, new pulp book reprints and whatever. And because of this new shift in their own paradigm, they have divested themselves of that part of their business. And as I believe, they sold it to the publisher of High Adventure, John Gunness, somebody that we know and is one of the co-promoters of the Windy City Paper and Pulp Show. So yeah, it was a big step for Radio Archives, and it has proven as well for us. Tom was very kind enough to send you and me both a complimentary CD set of that code name Intrepid. Yeah. My God, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
and you know what?
Great.
Right, and I'm gonna throw out a tease here to our loyal airman, Rob. All right, there is as yet, amongst all this interchange between Airship 27 and Radio Archives, Tom did let us in on a very special recording that's now in progress, and I don't want to give it away, but both of us about fell out of our chairs when we heard what they were recording. You remember what I'm talking about?
I remember he said something, but I can't remember what it was he was talking about. So
it's a special Airship 27 project. I'm not going to say anything else because I will give it away. But I don't want to steal Tom's thunder. All right.
No, let's not. No.
Okay. I think you're now remembering what I'm talking about.
I'm kind of remembering. I don't remember the details, but we'll talk after the recording.
Okay.
So you can remind me, and then I'll go, oh yeah. But somehow it's not coming to me right now. But that's okay.
Yeah. And if Tom's listening,
give it away.
Yeah, we don't mean to give it away, buddy. All right. And we're really, really happy with this evolution of our partnership, and I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody involved. All right. Hey, you take the next agenda, and then we'll divvy up the categories.
Right. Pardon me for coughing so much. I got something caught in my throat. Unfortunately, I got something to drink here. All right. Let's see. Oh, yes. This is great news. The ballot for the 10th annual Pulp Factory Awards has officially been released. Voting is now open until March 15th, 2019. The awards are to be given out at Windy City Pulp and Paper Convention on April 12th in Lombard, Illinois. In Lombard, Illinois. With April's Windy City Pulp and Paper Con approaching fast, the ballot for the 2019 Pulp Factory Awards, the 10th annual, will be handed out at the conference. It has just opened up for voting by the reading public. I'm reading the announcement of the ballot itself. The ballot can be found online, and we'll put the link for that in the show notes.
Yep.
I would try to read it, but it's harder to pronounce than some of the names that I've had to pronounce on this show.
No, we'll make sure Brand has it to put in the show notes.
Right. Yeah, he'll need that. Okay, voters have until Friday, March 15th to vote. You may vote in as many of the 5 categories as you wish, but you are limited to 1 vote per category. We are again using electronic ballot via Google Forms. And the nominees in each category are as follows. And I'll do the first one, then you can do the next one.
Yep.
The best pulp novel, The Bay Phantom, Feast of the Cannibal Guild by Chuck Miller from Airship 27. Jezebel Johnston, Morning Star by Nancy A. Hansen, also from Airship 27. Premium Delivery to the Center of the Earth by I.A. Watson from Chillwater Press. Vegas Heist by Van Allen Plexico from White Rocket Books.
All right. Now, nominees for the best pulp cover. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 12, Rob Davis for Airship 27. The Moon Man, Volume 2, Mike Files, Airship 27. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 11, Laura Givens, Airship 27. Jezebel Johnston, Morning Star, Ted Hammond, Airship 27. And finally, The Bay Phantom, Feast of the Cannibals, Adam Shaw, Airship 27.
Okay. Nominees for Best Pulp Short Story are Glass Devil by Mel Odom from Bass Reeves Frontier Marshal Volume 3, Airship 27. The Hangman's Daughter, I.A. Watson, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 12, Airship 27. Knights of the Silver Cross by Gordon Domowski, 1950s Western Roundup from Pro Se Productions. The Scotland Yard Murder, I.A. Watson, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 11 from Airship 27.
Okay, and now, Best Pulp Interior Illustrations, which I think we should ultimately call the Rob Davis category. Here we go. Oh my God. Artist Ed Cotto for The Adventures of Captain Graves, Airship 27. Rob Davis for Jezebel Johnston, Morning Star, Airship 27. Rob Davis, Secret Agent X, Volume 6 for Airship 27. Rob Davis, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, Volume 11 for Airship 27. Rob Davis, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, Volume 12, Airship 27. And lastly, Clayton Hinkle for Pulp Mythology, Airship 27. That's what? You got 4 nominations out of the 6.
I'm beginning to wonder if I shouldn't just bow out of being nominated for this category, because I get nominated every year. But the problem is, I'm always running against myself, so I always lose. It's always someone else gets it, which is fine, but it's nice to be nominated. There's the old thing about it's nice to be nominated. Well, boy, it's really nice to get nominated 4 times. So
before I let you read the last category, I do want to give you a little heads up. When the ballot was released across the internet, I got a nice little message or a comment from one of our writer friends, Barry Reese.
Yeah.
He went, wow. He says, once again, he says, as far as art's concerned, Airship 27 runs away with everything. And you know what? It's because we do the interior illustrations.
Right.
Most of our competitors have some gorgeous covers. And I'll be the first to admit that. The Pro Se, White Rocket Books, all the others, Black Coat Press, have some beautiful covers. But very few of them are doing interior illustrations anymore. So,
so the competition is amongst ourselves here at Airship 27.
Well,
it'd be nice if we had a little more competition, to be honest.
Right. And to give a little bit more work to these really great artists out there.
Right.
All right. Who deserve to have this stuff seen and appreciated.
So anyway, enough about that one. But the nominees for Best Pulp Anthology. The New Adventures of Richard Knight, Volume 3 from Pro Se Productions. Secret Agent X, Volume 6 from Airship 27. Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, Volume 11 from Airship 27. And Tales of the Interstellar Bartenders Guild from Pro Se Productions. That's an interesting mix of candidates there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Pro Se and Airship 27 are going at each other for this one. Okay. After March 15th, the committee will tally all the electronic votes via that Google form that we talked about earlier. And again, that link will be in the show notes. And the winners will be announced at the Windy City Pulp and Paper Convention at the Weston Lombard Yorktown Center outside Chicago, Illinois on Friday, April 12th, 2019. Questions and concerns should be directed to pulpawards@gmail.com. This will ensure a more prompt response than reaching out to individual committee members. And at the end of this announcement, thank you for your interest and looking forward to your votes.
There we go. As ever, I am really happy with the final ballot. There were surprises on it.
Yeah.
I was also happy that one or two of the items that I nominated made the final cut, as I hoped they would. All right.
I did too.
And you know what? Wrapping this up, there's no guarantee this podcast will air before the 15th, which is the last day of voting. But the committee members of Gordon Domowski and Van Plexico have done such a great job again this year with all the nominations, the pre-nominations, the final ballot, and now the voting, et cetera, et cetera. I want to give them a big shout out and a big thanks. And lastly, a real well done and congratulations to everybody who made that final ballot. I think every item on there was deserving to be there. Again, it makes voting difficult, but that's what we want. Okay, that's exactly what we want. And as ever, Rob and I are going to be the presenters at Windy City. And it is part of that weekend that we really look forward to. And we have a really great time acknowledging writers and artists for their work. So there you go. All right. Hey, I'm going to start off our next segment and read the first item, and then once again throw you into the deep end of the pool, buddy, with the longer one. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Of
well,
course. Here we go. Hey, released since our last show, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Volume 13. It features stories by Dexter Farby, I.A. Watson, S. Subramanian, and Fred Adams Jr. Artist Michael Youngblood did his homage cover to Sidney Paget that we talked about in the last few podcasts. And as ever, Rob did all the interior illustrations. I love how that cover came out, what Michael did. And I'm sure that all our loyal Sherlock Holmes fans and readers, and we have thousands of them according to our sales over the last 10 years, really recognized that piece of art, that sketch of Holmes and Watson on the train. It's a classic. And again, Michael did a phenomenal job of interpreting it in his paintings and color. It made a gorgeous cover. So there you go. Fingers crossed, maybe before the year's out, we'll get volume 14 out. We'll see how the year plays out. Right.
All right.
Okay.
Next,
now the big one. Go for it.
Just recently, we released Bulldog Drummon on Poisoned Ground by I.A. Watson. This was the big top secret project we started hinting at back in the early fall of 2018. For the uninitiated, Hugh Bulldog Drummond is a British fictional character created by H.C. McNeill and published under his pen name, Sapper. The first of his 10 Drummond novels was published in 1920. So that would make this character 100 years old.
Yep.
Well, close to 99 years old.
Yeah, right.
Next year's 19. Yeah. He would later write 4 short stories, 4 stage plays, and a screenplay before his death in 1937. Their stories were then continued by his friend Gerard Fairley between 1938 and 1954. A Bulldog Drummon radio series ran on the Mutual Broadcast System from April 1941 to January 1949. That's a good long run.
Yep.
There were 24 Bulldog Drummon movies made between 1922 and 1969, with 15 actors playing the part of Drummond. John Howard holds the record at 7 made between 1937 and 1939. That's a 3-year span with 7 movies. They were pumping them out. Other actors included Ronald Coleman, Ray Milland, Walter Pidgeon, and Richard Johnson. Ours is a modernization of the old series as redone by Ron and Ian. Whereas the original novels were terribly racist and a product of their times, it was thought the smartest way to leave that ignorant bigotry behind was to simply update the characters. In the first book of what will be an ongoing Airship 27 series, we meet retired British Captain Hugh Drummond and the rest of the cast, made up primarily of his team from the British Special Forces known as the SAS. After retiring from the Army, Drummond is bored with civilian life and posts an ad in the London Times stating he is looking for adventure, and in the end gets more than he bargained for. On Poison Ground is a cover-to-cover action roller coaster ride we are thrilled to offer our loyal airmen. In other words, Bulldog Drummon is back.
And there you go. And I wanted to include all of this history on our show today, Rob, because for those people who might not be aware of who Bulldog Drummon is, for most pulp enthusiasts, pulp fans, or fans of action literature, they know who he is. Okay, it's impossible not to talk of this particular genre of the gentleman adventurers without going back to Drummond, because he was the first. Right, we're talking 1920. Shortly after his books began being published, we eventually got Leslie Chatteris giving us The Saint, and then came The Falcon and a slew of other gentleman adventures. But the first, all right, the foremost was Bulldog Drummon, hands down. All right, and then to think 24 movies. I mean, right now James Bond is slowly catching up, but he still hasn't reached 24 yet. At least according to my count, I think we're in the early 20s right now.
Yeah, that's possible. I'd have to look.
I think we're like 21, 22 maybe. All right. Yeah. So again, and look at the range of what we're talking about: 1927 to 1969. All right. This is easily, all right, one of the hallmark heroes of pulp fiction. That being the case, okay, I knew very little about him. I knew some things, but not a lot. And what happened, and you and I talked about this when the project was born, is that I received an email from S. Subramanian from India, who is a huge Bulldog Drummond's fan. Apparently has read the originals, seen a lot of the movies and whatever. And he was, you guys have brought back a lot of the classic pulp heroes. Any chance of doing Bulldog Drummon? Well, initially my concern was, as it always is this public domain? And I realized the one person who could help me with that information, number one, and might in fact be a Drummond aficionado himself, was Ian Watson. So I went to Ian, and I mildly surprised him. I think he was taken with the idea. He spent a few days doing some real research, to the point when he got back to me, said, well, step number one, rest easy, Ron. Bulldog Drummon is totally public domain. That's a given. That's hands down. Okay. Then came the thought, how are we going to do him? Now, this is an important discussion I wanted to share with you, because we just last weekend released the book. It's out in the market now. Ian wrote the first novel of the series, which, again, as we talked about in the agenda reading, is insanely beautifully written. It is one of the best action adventure. He outbonds Bond, and as he should.
Yeah.
We let our buddy Gordon Demowski proof this. And what did Gordon do when he sent it back? Right, this is a hell of a good book, and I knew Ian had hit all the right notes.
Yep.
The thing is, we kept the essence of Drummond as he was intended to be, the bon vivant who's bored. All right. Whereas we changed, obviously, he's not now a World War I veteran. Now he's a veteran of the Middle East, Afghan, Iraq campaigns. All right. With his team. Okay. The point is, you and I created an entire publishing house on the idea of bringing back classic pulp characters and keeping them as they were. And we've had lots of people over the years come by and say, well, why don't you do a modern Secret Agent X? Or why don't you do a modern Domino Lady? All those kind of things. And we adamantly hold the line, because that's not what we were ever about.
Nope.
But with Drummond, the racism, that blatant racism, is so pervasive throughout the series, because he's one of the good old boys. Went to Sandhurst and all that, so that his butler gets looked on as a second-class citizen, right? Any people of color, the people of the Indian nation, and all this are literally, they're snubbed. These characters, as Sapper, as McNeil wrote them, his heroes were snobs. We're British snobs.
Well, and in the upper class in Britain in the 1920s, that's the way they were. The early 20th century, they were. That's the way they were.
Right.
And so he wrote them as they were.
So the idea is, Ian and I are talking, and I said to Ian, I said, well, if we were to do the 1920s Bulldog Drummon, then we wouldn't be doing him properly or accurately, because there's no way we're going to keep that racism. We would, in fact, be changing him.
Yeah.
That being the case, then it just seemed the most logical and intelligent manner of keeping the good stuff about the character and his team and fighting for justice and all those classic themes was to modernize him, to bring him into our times, to get away from that bigotry all together. Okay. So back and forth we go for a couple of weeks. We changed the characters, we updated, but what we kept the core of what McNeil created as an action adventure series. And then Ian went out and wrote this amazing novel. The book is out. And sure, what do you expect, right? Within 2 days of the book being out on Facebook, this fella named Mike Brown immediately posts, right, and goes, oh, God. And that does, oh, God, I can't buy this. He says, this looks like a train wreck. Now he's talking about nothing less than the press release and the cover that Ted Hammond turned in, which is absolutely beautiful, right? And you can't modernize these characters. You're ruining them forever. I sat back, Rob, and and again, it's like this, this is what we're about. I get it. So for him to think that we did this lightly, that without thought, without a lot of planning, a lot of mind shaking and wondering if this was the right way to go. I said, I got back to him, and to all our friends up on Facebook, they've already seen this, because I got back to him, I got in his face and basically told him, you know what, Mike, put your money where your mouth is. All right. I have challenged Mike Brown to buy a copy of Bulldog Drummon on Poison Ground, to read it, and then to honestly give us a review. And if he still thinks after he's read it that this book is bad, it stinks, whatever, the book, the story, all right, I will gladly give him back his money. All right. I am putting my money where my mouth is. Okay. Ian Watson wrote what I think one of the best books Airship 27 has ever published. I'm going to stand by it 100%. And all you loyal airmen out there, if you have even the slightest doubt, don't. This is worth your time and attention. So, there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like there's a big controversy about the movie Captain Marvel, and there was a whole subsection of Marvel fandom on the internet complaining about that the original Captain Marvel was a man and blah 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 blah, and it's even the first female was another character, and I'm going, get over it. It's a movie. You still got the comic books the way you remember them.
Totally.
The movie. This is the movie, and it's not gonna be the comic books. It's gonna be different. So and all this stuff about it smacks of sexism to me about Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel has to be a man. Well, the character has been male and female, and it's all silly.
Well,
silly.
yeah, right. Let's look at this really, as adults, and that's, obviously there were people that were not going to be happy that they changed this. Okay, I can remember when we were writing the Green Hornet and we created a female Kato, and we had really people went off the deep end, Rob. All right, I got letters calling me every name.
No.
All right, okay, but here's the thing, okay, and it includes Bulldog, it includes Captain Marvel. All right. You can have your feelings. You can have a right to your thoughts about characters, whatever you want. And there are people that aren't going to go see Captain Marvel because it's different than what they read as a comic. And you know what? I respect that. Okay. And people aren't going to read Bulldog Drummon. I respect that. But do not criticize what you have not read or have not seen. Your opinions are valid. Your criticisms are not. If you haven't seen the movie, shut your mouth. If you haven't read the book, shut your mouth again. If you didn't go vote for candidate so-and-so, shut your mouth. Okay? Participate, get involved. Go see the movie, and then if it still stinks, write a review. Okay. But if you haven't done either, if you haven't participated honestly, you've got no leg to stand on. Just go away.
And like I said, the proper response is, if you think the idea is a bad one, don't go buy it. Don't buy a ticket.
Stay home. The last time I looked, it's like another 20 movies playing alongside Captain Marvel. Go find one you want to see.
Pull out one of the DVDs of one of the other Marvel movies and sit at home and watch that, or get it on Netflix or whatever. Come on.
Yep. My Lord.
Okay. But anyway,
some people just have to make a noise, Rob. What are you going to do, right?
Okay. And they have a right to do that, but it's just silly. It is just silly. If you haven't read it, if you haven't seen it, how can you possibly make a credible critique of it?
You can't.
It's not credible. So anyway, let's beyond that.
Right
okay,
along.
What's coming next?
Okay,
yeah,
this is fine.
Right. Yep, this one's
Fred
yours.
Adams Jr., pulp writer. This book will feature a short story from each of Fred's 6 ongoing series for Airship 27 Productions. I have written the actual introduction to the book, while Rob did the cover and interior illustrations. All that remains was for Fred to look at the galleys and get back to us, and I believe that happened today, didn't it, amigo?
It did. I have made all the corrections, and as soon as we're finished here, I'll be getting it ready to go up on Kindle and Amazon, and away we go. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day, it'll be available for purchase. Excellent. Now that we're talking on Monday, what day is today? The 11th.
Right.
Through the 13th, it should be available. So by the time you hear this, it's available. It should be available by then.
If you loyal airmen have bought any of Fred's books in the past, you really need to pick this up. It's a sampler, as you heard us describe what the book's about. Currently, Fred is doing 6 ongoing series for Airship 27, and there is a story from each of these series in the book. Rob did the illustrations, which are really great, and he's come up with a cover that I absolutely love. And in the next couple of days, you'll be seeing it advertised online.
It's different from most any other cover we've done. It has a little bit different look to it, but I won't give it away. People can check it out. Go over to Amazon and see what we did.
Okay.
So anyway, speaking of, here's one of those series that Fred is doing for us. It's the Bleak Ike Mars Mystery. This is the first in a new series from Fred Adams Jr. about a private eye who, after having been struck twice by lightning, discovers he can mold his facial features to look like other people. Not a bad talent for a private eye. In this first book, James McFarlane has done the interior illustrations, and yours truly will handle the cover. Once assembled, it will be off to the proofreader. Yeah, and Ron and I got on last night, and we were talking about what the cover is supposed to be looking like. So probably after I get Pulp Writer up, I will probably start looking at seeing what I can do to start doing that cover. And we've also got a couple other books that I'm in the midst of assembling. So it'll probably be whichever thing appeals to me.
Okay.
What kind of mood I'm in.
well, we skipped over one. We skipped
list.
over one in the agenda, buddy. The Dominant Lady, Volume 3.
Yeah, it's in a different size type. So I skipped right over it. So you go ahead and read that one.
Sure enough. Again, Domino Lady, Volume 3. It features stories by Adam Mudman Bazinski, Gene Moyers, Brad Engel, and Samantha Lionheart. Artist James Lyle did all the interior illustrations, and Ted Hammond the cover, which is absolutely gorgeous. This is the same art team we've had on volumes 1 and 2, and the book is currently in the hands of a proofreader. So that should not take a whole lot of time once it comes back from the proofreader. In this particular case, and we follow our process, Rob will make the corrections from the proofreader, but then the galleys will go out to each of the writers so they get an opportunity to look over their stories one final time before we go off to the presses. And as Rob and I already know, there are a lot of Domino Lady fans out there. There's a loyal legion of them. And so be really happy to get this third volume out for them. Okay. And Rob,
that's on the agenda in the studio as well. So, and after those two, after those three, the Fred Adams Pulp Writer, that one's coming out probably the next day or so. The Domino Lady Volume 3, then the Bloody Key and Ike Mars Mystery. After that, in production is writer Michael Housel's new Persona novel, Green Fleshed Fiends. Say that one 5 times.
Yeah, that's about as pulpish as you're going to get.
Absolutely. Artist Kevin Paul Broden is doing the interior, and Chris Rod, Rawding, I hope I pronounced that right, is working on the cover. So that one's in the pipeline as well as a couple of 2 or 3 others that aren't far enough along for us to really probably even mention at this point. But we've got this is starting out to be a pretty prolific year for us after we kind of wound down in November and December. We didn't have much coming out, but this year it's just bang, 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 bang.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing.
Yeah, right now we're keeping a pace of two books, 2 releases a month, and with the release of Pulp Writer, and shortly thereafter, hopefully the others that Rob has mentioned, we could in fact break that pacing to maybe get 3 books out in 1 month or whatever. But yeah,
but we know how that is. Another month later on, we might get 1 or 0. So it generally averages out to about two a month. So we'll see how it goes.
Which is great. Which is really awesome production. I'm tickled pink about that. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is that in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of months, I've been getting submissions in of novels. I've been getting novel manuscripts, some by writers that are familiar to us, have worked with us in the past. One in particular that bowled me over a great deal is a book by R.A. Jones.
Yes.
R.A. has done 4 books for us right now. He did. I'm trying to think. He did the Native American Indian book. He did 2 Man Killer books, Jason Man Killer books, and then he did Scimitar. So he's actually done 4 novels for us. And he came to me last year with an idea for a book, which he was somewhat leery of because it is totally out of the norm for what he usually writes. It's very much not a genre action-packed adventure, okay? This is a really deft, insightful, and I want to say absolutely heart-wrenching book about a man who, towards the end of his life, all right, is not very happy with how he has lived that life. There's a lot of fantasy elements in this, Rob, because right from the start, he meets someone who has maybe a little bit of magic and dares him to go back and relive his life. And this time, make different decisions. All right. The book is called The Road Twice Traveled. And R.A. was a little leery that I wouldn't want to, receive it because it was an action adventure, pulpish, and all that good stuff. The thing is, knowing his skills as a writer, I was intrigued by the concept and asked him to, by all means, send me the manuscript when he was finished, which he did. Within 2-3 chapters, I knew I had to publish this. It's going to be a challenge for you and I to promote it because it isn't an action adventure pulp. It isn't, horror. It isn't science fiction. It's just a damn good story about life and the decisions we make in that life and how they reverberate. All right. So I hope I'm teasing you with it. I hope I'm teasing our loyal airmen out there. The Road Twice Travel. There were times when I teared up reading this, Rob. It's easily R.A.'s masterpiece, and I've let him know that. He was a little taken and happy with the results, and I think every writer has in him that desire to write a book like this. And he did it. I don't know if I could write anything this insensitive. All right, this about what life is. So something for people to be looking at. Now, the exact flip side of that coin, Rob, I was approached by a writer named Philip McCormack, I believe is Irish, who has actually written westerns for Black Horse Westerns out of England, okay? And I guess through our buddy, Tom McNulty, okay, who's also written Black Horse, right? McCormick wants to do other things. So he sends me this plot idea about what would you think of an Irish werewolf during the 1916 rebellion?
Really? Okay.
An Irish werewolf during the 1916 Easter Rebellion. I said, Phil, that is so left field. You got to send me this thing. So he sent me the manuscript. He formatted the way we want. He sent me the manuscript a week ago. I just started reading it. I'm laughing my fool head off because it's so pulpish, obviously, okay? But again, beautifully written. Exceptionally written. I'm just having this little conversation with you to tease our listeners out there at some of the stuff that's coming across our desk and will be coming their way hopefully by the end of the year. It looks like 2019 is going to be a banner year for Airship 27.
Wow, yeah, some pretty cool stuff. Do you have anything you want to cover yet? I have one item here.
Go for it. Go for it.
Podcast that's not on the agenda, and this is something being frequently. But if anyone who is coming to Windy City, or anybody who's going to Planet Comic-Con, which I'm going to in a little over 2 weeks, if there's certain Airship 27 books that you would like to purchase from us at either one of those shows, and they're not one of the ones we published within the last year, be sure to get a hold of me. And you can get a hold of me at Rob M. Davis at mac.com. Email me what books you would like so I can order them and have them in hand when I go. So as soon as you hear this podcast, decide if you're first of all, if you're going to one of those shows. Second, if you want an Airship 27 book, that's not been published in the last 12 months, email me, tell me what you want, and I will order it and have it for the shows. Okay. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I'll have them. We have some of our older books in my inventory. I look over because there's several boxes to my left that have our inventory in them. But I can't guarantee that the book that you want is going to be in there. If you will email, if it's not in those boxes, I will order it and I'll have it for you. Okay, and that's all I have.
All right, there you go. I think one of the things I want to get across, and then I'll end with my joke of the podcast, and that's next podcast is number 50. The magic number 50.
Oh,
yeah, right. And Rob and I have an idea. We have an idea of what we're going to do, the big surprise. Keep your fingers crossed, loyal airmen, that we can pull this off. I think it's going to be something you will get a huge kick out of. And that's all I want to say about that. And okay, so here it comes. Get ready, amigo. All right.
Okay.
I've heard it before. It's an oldie but a good stinker. Okay, so here we go. Right, two factory workers are talking. The woman says, I can make the boss give me the day off. The man worker looks at her and says, how would you do that? The woman says, well, just wait and see. She then gets a step ladder, climbs up towards the ladder, and climbs over the light bulbs fixtures on the ceiling and hangs there just as the boss is coming by. The boss looks up and says, what the hell are you doing up there? And she starts waving her arms, hanging upside down. I'm a light bulb. I'm a light bulb. I'm a light bulb. The boss goes, get down before you hurt yourself. She crawls off. She comes down. She comes up before the boss. And he goes, I am so sorry. He says, obviously, I've been working all of you way too hard. He said, you take the rest of the day off and you take tomorrow off and get some rest. Well, she winks at her coworker over the boss's shoulder, turns around, and starts to walk out the door. Well, the male coworker looks and he starts following her. The boss goes, whoa, where the heck do you think you're going? Turns around and says, I'm going home. I can't work in the dark.
Very good. What sneaks up on you?
Yep. When I read that one the other day, I went, oh yeah, that's the one. That's a winner. So, and there you go, loyal airmen. We've pretty much wrapped up another hour and filled your heads with all kinds of hopefully fun information that you will appreciate. As ever, thanks for listening in. Rob and I could not do this without you guys. We can't do it without Brant Fowler and the good people at Zone 4 who make it all possible. Stay well, stay happy, go see some good movies, go read some good books, and we will catch up with you next week in episode 50. Rob, I'll let you say goodnight.
Yeah. This is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And Captain Ron says, down ship.
This has been a Gonzo Goose production.